So I'm really, really honored to have you here with us. And you, your name is Professor Elmian Lesh, and you're going to be conducting today's webinar. Guys, she is a clinical psychologist and a professor of psychology at Stellenbosch University, South Africa, with over 30 years of experience in clinical practice, research, and teaching. She's certified emotionally focused therapist, a supervisor with ISEF, and one of the few trainers who will be bringing emotionally focused individual therapy to diverse cultural contexts around the world to India. Her work integrates deep clinical expertise with a strong emphasis on cultural sensitivity, gender, and attachment. And today she will be sharing how EFIT offers a transformative lens for working with individuals through the science of attachment. So please join me warmly welcoming Professor Elmin Lesh. Over to you.
Thanks, Aditi, for that nice introduction. Good morning, everybody, again. It is lovely to have you here. I just want to give you a heads up, a warning beforehand that you will have to help me this morning, in the sense that I don't want this to be just me being a talking head at you. And I guess by doing that, I also want to let you know that besides this model, which is a very experiential one, in other words, it's not talking about theory. It is not me, when I train, standing in front of you and trying to explain theory to you, because this model is about being with clients who are depressed, anxious, traumatized in a way that is not quite highlighted in other modalities. So when we train, we do a little piece of theory, then I demonstrate to you what it looks like in practice, or I show you a video, and then we practice. Either you with a buddy or in a group that's facilitated. So that experiential component, that is so part and parcel of the therapy itself, we also echo that in the training. So where I want to start this morning, guys, and again, I know perhaps you are busy with something else, but it will really help me if I can see your faces. Because I want to start with the first question, and that is, how many of you know attachment theory quite well? And I'm talking specifically about both child and adult attachment theory. So if you can just, either use your emojis or in the chat, or just, if you're old school like I just lift my hand, and I want you to just give me an indication. How many of you know attachment theory really well, do you think? Preeti says she knows attachment theory. Anybody else? Chakuntala, you do? Yeah? Aditya, the Mopo? Okay. So Aditi says, perhaps not really that well. Okay. So then the next question that's related to that is, what are the current modalities? And with modalities, I'm talking I don't know the training set up in India, and maybe some of you have studies overseas. What kind of, if you do individual work with people who are depressed or anxious, who have experienced trauma, what kind of modalities are you trained in? What do you use in your practice? If I can just get a sense of what you're currently using. And guys, you're also welcome to unmute yourself and just say, treaty, person-centered, humanistic therapy. Aditi, you have a whole handful of models. REBT, CBT, all right. Brain spotting, Okay, Nankita, you have EFCT in your toolbox. Right. REBT, humanistic. Okay. That's helpful for me to know. So where I want to start, and I like to use just some PowerPoint slides because I think if you like I am, I can't just look at someone's face and hear them talk. It helps me to have a visual with the talking head. So I want to just briefly share my screen because I think it would be helpful for us to just get into um, the brief ideas that I want to share with you. Just want to get my setup going here, and there we go. So I'm not going to put you through a whole explanation about attachment theory. I want us to just be with this picture in mind and that phrase of we become through others, because that is the core principle of both child and adult attachment theory. That we come into this world like that little person there in the hands, and we are very much still at the beginning of becoming. We know that obviously when a baby or a fetus is still inside the mother, that they're already shaped by external influences. But we know very little about how that works. What we do know, and that has been borne out by research over and over again, is that we are shaped by the people who take care of us in our early years. So if we can remind ourselves that both ourselves and our clients are not fully fledged beings. We have potential. Obviously, we have genetic material. But right from the start, even in our mother's uterus, we respond and become aware of how the world deals with us. And that is the principle that EFIT utilizes in thinking about clients. So what the three important things that we learn in this process of being taken care of others in our early years is we develop a sense of who we are. And in attachment theory, we call it a view of ourselves. And that revolves about how lovable am I? Um, how, how beautiful am I? How clever am I? So it's very much an idea about who we are. And as we know, that view can be quite negative or positive or a combination of that. But usually a more positive or negative view prevails. And then there's also the view of others. And in attachment theory, that view of others revolves around how trustworthy are others? Can I rely on others to come to me when I need them? Will they take care of me? And those of you who have indicated that you are exposed to CBT, you will know that those ideas aren't novel. They also feature in CBT, for example. But what EFIT, based on attachment theory, highlights are besides learning about who we are and what we can expect of others, attachment theory also highlights that in our interactions with other people, we learn how to regulate our emotions. Because again, think of that baby in the hands of the caregiver. We don't have language when we come into this world. Our brains aren't even developed yet to deal with abstract ideas. So if you think about a baby being frightened by something, all that they experience is this huge body sense of a central nervous system that is highly alerted. And when the caregiver comes to them, they learn about what happens if I experience this huge thing for which there aren't words yet. And besides not having words, is not understanding what it means and what I do with it. So, so that is what we learn when we grow up, is what does emotions mean? And and how do I make sense of them? And more particularly, what do I do with them? And again, depending on one's own temperament and the people who've taken care of you, we learn more effective or less effective regulation strategies. And then the third thing that I want to highlight is what we also learn in this process of becoming in interaction with others. We learn how to be with other people, what the best ways are for getting closeness and comfort from other people. So when you think about your clients, and EFIT is particularly a model for people struggling with depression, anxiety, and trauma, is we ask ourselves, and think about your own clients that you're currently working with, whether you're working with them in a humanistic model or EMDR or CBT, is what do you know about their internal pattern of dealing with upset emotions? So especially for people with depression and anxiety, is what is their internal pattern of coping with feelings of despair, darkness, or feeling of high anxiety and alert? The second question that we ask in EFIT, then, based on what I explained to you just now, is what are the patterns that people utilize to engage with others that keeps them alone and isolated? Aditi, your hands up?
Elmian, the PPT that you're sharing, it's not completely visible. It has gray blotches on the top as well as on the bottom. Could you please try and maybe see if you can
Yeah.
reshare it?
Is
Changes.
that for all the slides, Aditi?
Yes, for since the beginning, it's been like that.
Oh no. I'm sorry about that.
Mm.
Let me see what I can do. Sorry, guys, that you've been having to deal with some gray blotches. I didn't mean to torture you with that. It can be so frustrating. I'm just going to, because I'm not going to keep you long with slides. I just want to have a few more, and then I will anyway stop them. So let me see what we can do here.
Could please all of you keep your mics muted for the webinar? And when Elmin asks you questions, please, that's when you keep your mic open to speak. Thank you.
Alvin, there is some system error, I think, because the blotches are growing, reducing. So there's some system error happening. We're not seeing half the slide right now.
Oh, good gracious. And I have no idea. Thanks for letting me know about that.
You could you could close your PowerPoint and then open it again and restart. Sometimes system works like that.
Okay. Thanks for that hint. I can do with all the technical help I can get. So while I'm trying to multitask here, doing one thing or two things at one time, where I was trying to go with explaining just briefly the principles underlying. Okay, now I need to pause myself because it seems that my multitasking is not as well developed as I thought it was. So I am going to share again and see how we're doing this time. Guys, are we in any better situation or not?
The box from bottom shifted to the top. And now is another box. I think maybe your system is overheating. Some issues happening. Oh, yes, it
Now it's
cleared.
fine. It's fine now.
Yes, now it's cleared.
Good
If it
grace.
happens again, if you want, I can share the PPT, but let's see if it works well with yours because the blotch is shifting here and there, but now it's stable at the moment at least.
Okay,
Yes, we can see the
interesting.
screen. Thank you. Sorry for the trouble and disrupting your flow.
No, no, no. I'm just so relieved that you actually spoke up and not, as I say, suffered in silence. Um, so I think where I was heading is the four questions that we ask when we work with clients, and that I also wanted you to just ask yourself for the current people that you're working. If you know about the internal emotional regulation cycle that keeps them stuck in depression, anxiety, or trauma. And usually, when people are there, they also have an interpersonal cycle with others, either close others, but it could also be work colleagues or a broader friendship circle that keeps your client alone and isolated. Because again, people with trauma, depression, and anxiety often feels alone and isolated. And even though they may have people in their lives, on an emotional level, they often feel alone, not belonging, not really fitting into the world. And part of that has to do with ineffective ways that they connect with other people or try to connect with them, but also very often avoid other people or being close to other people. Then, thirdly, and again, this is what makes the model its unique aspect, is we interested in the core emotions that's driving those patterns. And once we know that, we can begin to think about what corrective emotional experience does this client of yours need? So, guys, when we think about these internal cycles, what attachment theory brings us is an understanding of both as children and as adults. When we're feeling secure, we are able to almost give our frontal lobes oxygen. And we can use that part of our brain to take in signals and to be also reasonable and pragmatic about how we behave. When we feel threatened or insecure, our central nervous system goes into hyperactivation. And in that mode, we are not at our best. And this is what is at the heart of understanding people's distress is either they are hyper aroused, or they try, not on a conscious level, but push down those feelings of despair, anxiety, or just feeling very, very alone in the world, not engaging with it. Or for people who are very traumatized, is they flip between the two. And when one gets to a place where you are stuck in one of these strategies, in other words, they're not adaptive anymore, you are in trouble and your mental health suffers, because that means that you can no longer, in a flexible way, respond to others or to stresses in your life. You only have this one default strategy of either hyperarousal or under arousal, where you don't really feel anything, or you flip between the two. So what we do in EFIT is we help people identify those patterns of how they regulate their emotions or how they interact with people. And that isn't unique to this model. Other models does it too. But what this model does uniquely is how to create emotional experiences that are corrective, that can help people move out of these internal or interactional patterns. So EFIT is not talking about emotions or teaching people on an intellectual level to understand their emotions. Yes, that's part of it, but that does not bring the change. So this model is also very much based on neuroscience. And part of the training will involve what helps to us or what happens to us when we are either hyperactivated or underactivated when it comes to our central nervous system. And then lastly, guys, the self of therapist issue is critical in this training, because besides that, people tell us when they undergo this training that it's not only that it adds to them being able to work experientially and create emotionally corrective experiences for their clients, they also learn so much about themselves. So exactly the same things that we want for our clients in the process of training. We not only focus on you as a therapist and your own capacity to be with your own emotional experiences, but also with your clients. Because again, depending on how you grew up, what you've learned about emotions in your growing up, your capacity to be with your clients when they either almost over emotive, or you all know that how it can suck the energy out of the room when you're working with very depressed clients, when it feels there's nothing really happening, there's no energy, is ways that one can almost walk into that dark, energyless place and begin to find out where those emotions are being pushed down and hidden. Because again, we don't talk to people about their despair. We help them move into the despair, not to reinforce it, but to help them unpack what the core emotions are in that blanket of anxiety or depression, and begin to tease it out and use the core emotions, what we call in EFIT, the hottest emotions. And just one example, I'm working with a a guy is just turned 50, and he has a lifetime of learning from a mother who was a great philanthropist, had many non-profit organizations. And with her, he learned, don't ever put yourself first. Don't think about yourself. It's about other people. So the phrase from his mother that rings in his head is serve other people first. And he's in a marriage where he does the same thing. He took out the family business. He was studying to be a philosopher of all things. So you can imagine the kind of guy that he is, wanting to deepen his understanding of philosophy. And his father died when he was 21, and he had to leave his studies to take over the family business because it was expected of him that he would do what's best for the family. So he has had a lifetime of don't attend to yourself, don't be selfish. But what's happened is that this part of himself that wants to be interested in things that's not about business, he's totally suppressed that. And since I've been seeing him for 10 years, he's been suffering from severe depression, and he's hidden even that until he came to a place where he had a very, very serious suicide attempt. He really wanted to die. And he was in hospital for quite a long time. He drove his car into a breach wall. So it was just, we don't know how he survived. But can you imagine the despair of someone who, for very good intentions, he's a beautiful man, he couldn't let that part speak. And where we are in therapy now is just to begin to help him let that part speak. So part of EFIT and the emotionally corrective experience is similar to an empty chair, is to help build out that part of him that he's been denying so long, just to give that part a voice. So, and in therapy then, it is a process of him, the other part of him that suppresses, that says, don't listen to this other part, is to make that young man who's been denied, who's had to be involved in all these business practices whilst he was longing for someone else, to let that part speak. And in the speaking and the feeling of that part of himself, the corrective experience happens. And just a month into therapy, his depression has lifted so much, and there's energy because he isn't hijacked anymore by pushing this part down of him that's been so long denied existence or a voice. And that may sound quite esoteric to you, because some people say, how does it work? But if you think about how many people we see that either have such parts in themselves that is at war with each other. There's the part that says, you're useless. You won't make it anyway. And we try and say, no, don't go away. I don't want to talk to you. And desperately try just to get on with things. That in EFIT, we help person in an organic, authentic way to begin to speak with parts of self, or to speak to people who are no longer there or can't be in therapy. So there may be a hurt or an injury with a mother or a grandparent that either can't be in therapy or is no longer in the world. And in those conversations, we create new experiences. So it's not simply about a conversation where a person say to a mother, how could you have abandoned me and left me alone? We also have mechanisms where we can have a different conversation with that mother. That could sound something like, I understand now that you were also young. You didn't know any better. And that can bring corrective healing as if that person had a conversation with that mother in real life. So the therapy process are real interactional processes, not artificial, mechanical, almost making a client jump through hoops. It's a felt sense of being in conversation. So I'm going to pause there for a moment and just say to you again, so this training, and I'm so excited that we can do it in person, that I'm going to be with you. And on the one hand, and I hope you will be willing to also share personal experiences about how you've developed and what this therapy would look like for you in your own life, but obviously also for your clients. And practice what those corrective emotional experiences, interventions would look like. So guys, Aditi, and help me here. I think we have about, 20 minutes left. Yeah? So before, Aditi, shall we first talk about what people can look forward to if they join us for training, or do you first want us to take questions?
Let's tell them what they will be looking forward for the training, and then let's take their questions. We'll have enough time for them.
Okay. So
Because
then,
some will be answered when you tell them. You will not have to repeat.
okay. So Aditi, I think help me here. The EFIT training starts on is it the 18th or the 19th?
It starts on 20 June and it ends on 23 June. It's a 4-day training for level 1, which you're doing with us in person in Gurgaon. The venue and the details will be shared with the people who have registered for the training and will come for the training in 2 weeks' time. I'm assuming that for the training there will be some manual presentations and some other things that you will be sharing with us, which will be given to all the participants who will be coming a week prior to that. Um, Anything else that I'm missing on, Hilmi,
Yeah,
that comes as part of the training?
yeah. So I think what we need to just highlight for people is, so you will get a manual with the PowerPoints that I used, and then we can either do Google Drive or whatever platform is most available, give you quite a hefty pack of articles, exercises, material that you can use with your clients. So we won't obviously be able to touch on everything of that, but if you want to then, after the training, deepen your understanding, and this is a model that I want to highlight for you, is the theory is easy to get, and you will find that it resonates with you. It's the doing of it. In other words, the therapist's skill in bringing about those moments. Because so often one's training is about yada, 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 this is the theory, and then you conceptualize clients. But how often does it really happen that you are not only trained, but you are helped and supported to be the therapist in the room doing that therapy? CBT has some of that. It helps you to have a conversation with people. But again, that is when people are in their heads. They're intellectually engaging with it. To help people be in an emotion and then be with them and keep your own grounding whilst they are very fragile or very hyperactivated, and help them through an experience that is healing and corrective is a different thing. But so the point is, we obviously can't do it all in 4 days, but we will almost have this library for you that you have access to deepen your understanding. And then the International Center for Excellence in Emotionally Focused Therapy is a very well-established organization, very well-resourced. So once you've done this 4-day trainings, obviously you get a certificate of completion, and then you can, for a reduced fee for the first year, and the fees are very affordable for countries like us who aren't high-income countries. Very affordable fee. And what it gives you is you list it on ICEFT. So if anybody looks out for an EFT therapist internationally, it's either online or in India itself, your name will come up with your contact details. And you have access to all the resources then that ICEFT offer. And as I said, you can, if you're interested, just go to ICEFT and you can see how broad those resources are. Aditi, now I need to ask you again, is there anything else that we need to highlight for people that you can think of?
Just one more thing, Elmian. So this is the first time we're doing EFIT specifically for India. And since you have established EFT in South Africa, I know you have a vast exposure of working with collectivistic culture, which is exactly what we learn here, the kind of clients that we see here. So for that, I know that the understanding and the work that I'm going to be bringing here is going to be very helpful for us with our clients, with the kind of population that we deal with. Because either you're right, we see a lot of hyperarousal or extreme cases of hyperarousal that happens with most of our trauma clients. And what I've learned today from you sounds like that EFIT is giving us a space to create corrective emotional experiences of felt sense, which is a lot of times missing when we work with the trauma. That change was a very, very big highlight for me when I heard you tell us that so we know what to do at the end, intellectualizing, understanding all of that works. But really knowing where to shift for the felt sense to shift. That was a really big learning. So this is something that I just want to highlight. That sounds like a great opportunity, and especially in person, because I have trained in EFCT. We have a lot of other people who've trained in EFCT here, and I think I would vouch for everyone that it's amazing to actually have it in person because it really shifted us as individuals as well when we did EFCT. So I'm sure that EFIT is also going to be very experiential and very emotionally challenging and activating for us as well. It brings a change in us as a person. So I
Yeah.
was really looking forward to for that.
Oh, yeah. And can I just add there, Aditi, is that when we talk about emotions, we also know it's culturally shaped. In our cultural context, we know which emotions are more welcome and which are less welcome, and what are appropriate ways of expressing them. So part of the conversation that I'm looking forward to is what you guys are experiencing in terms of what emotions in your specific context people find more difficult to engage with, and what are the ways that we can help them with it. Because as I said, we if it isn't, oh, let's be touchy-feely about emotions, there's neuroscience behind it. So often in my context, people say to me, yeah, but men don't really do emotions. And I say, it's frankly, my dear, we don't have a choice. We're wired to have emotions. Evolutionary, we have them because it tells us if something is dangerous or safe so that we can live. And it's in our context where all kinds of either delusions or ways that we try and ignore certain feelings happens. But we can't ignore that they have a very valuable role. And the better we listen to our emotions and understand what they mean to tell us, the better we can respond to them. Because I think all know the old cliche, people often confuse emotions with how you behave. One can be angry, and it doesn't mean that you throw your toys out of the cot. That's a behavior. If we are respectful and listen to our core emotions, they help us. They mean to help us adjust to whatever stresses we are dealing with. But again, there are emotional rules in cultures. And part of the training is also to understand how we acknowledge those rules. But also when it comes to people's relationships, we learn how to be a man or a woman in a relationship, either as a daughter or a son or a husband. And we also need to keep that in mind. And again, I have experience with diverse cultures in South Africa and in Africa, but I want to hear more about how you make sense of the cultural nuances of emotions and relationships and how we can utilize it in EFIT.
Makes sense.
People, are there any questions that you have for us, either about the model or the training?
Hi, Monica here.
Is that a question, Aditi? I couldn't make it out.
Mohita, may you may have to speak closer to the mic on your earphones because your voice is not audible at all.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Hi, there are two things I've registered, Edwin. I asked Aditi, will we be getting any pre-recorded videos before the workshop?
Moita, I just want to be sure. Pre-recorded videos about what? What are you asking? Should
About
be in?
if it's something, to just get a better idea of like we did in EFCT, we did it with Rebecca. We got some pre-recorded videos, about attachment theory, about one of the tango moves, 1 to 5. Will we be getting any pre-recorded videos?
Moita, no, because Rebecca used almost what we call a hybrid training. So in other words, those pre-recorded videos are in the place of some of the sections that we will do. But in our case, all the training will be in the 4 days in person live.
All right. Thanks. And secondly, Aditi, you told me the venue was Def Call. It's shifted to Gurgaon.
Yes, it is shifted. Can we take that on the call that, like beyond the webinar, can we take this on a phone call? But yes, it has
Yeah, because
shifted
that
to
is
different
very
call. You need,
disappointing for me. Yeah, yeah. Please call me. Yeah, thanks.
sure. Guys, one more thing I just want to add, and then we can continue with your questions. If anybody of you wants to actually come for the training, for 24 hours, we have a special discount. Ideally, the price of the training was 44,499. But if you register now, within, like after this till 24 hours, the pricing is, I think, 36,499. So you have a subsidized price for next 24 hours if you want to come up for the training for EFIT. Just putting it out there. I'll put it on the group as well. Any other questions anybody has around EFIT? Anything they want to know about EFIT?
I would love to know if I can't be a part of it this time. When would we see Almain again taking this on in person? Because I'm got quite a few exams in June, and I'm sorry that I'm missing out. But
No, Preeti, I'm disappointed to hear that. We would have liked you to be there. No, I don't think we have dates yet, Preeti, but we're hoping to, I think, either January next year but again, I don't want to put dates in your head that we can't live up to. We will have to think about when it happens again.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if I can do anything about it. Let's see.
Yeah, leave those exams. Come and be with us, rather.
I would be more than happy to skip them.
Good. Yeah, I can believe you. I don't want to do exams either. I think there's some questions in the chat. I just want to see if I can get to them. There's questions about difference in FCT and EFIT. And do we use them both if couples come to us? Yes, you can use them in parallel because very often, especially when you get stuck in couple therapy and realize there's trauma, individual trauma, that someone could benefit from working through. So EFIT can help us with blocks in parallel with the couple therapy process. And then there's the question, are there any prerequisite to training EFIT? No, there aren't, except that you need to be a registered mental health professional or a student in a mental health profession. And then, Ankita, you ask who can we apply it with and whom not? Obviously, the kind of it is mostly for depression, anxiety, and also for trauma. And we'll very specifically go through the contraindications. And that has to do with what is someone's tolerance to, and again, this is one does it in small installments, small steps. But if someone is very fragile, so here we're talking about someone who can easily default in delusions or hallucinations, or can flip into self-harm if they push beyond their emotional window of tolerance. So that's anyway something that we're very mindful of in the therapy. But if you're beginning to work with someone who's very disintegrated, are already on the edge of, you can still utilize EFIT, but it would be very slow, very incrementally. But again, Ankita, that is our core question that we always ask in terms of indications and contraindications, is someone's ability to tolerate being with their own emotional experience in a very real way.
Thank you, Almin. I think that was the core understanding I needed because, in the starting of the webinar, when you said that with CBT, we're working on the surface level, the logic, but we do need to do the deepening. We do need to work with the core emotions. We do need to work with the parts. I realized that, especially for the borderline personality disorder population that I work with, I would have to be really well trained and very observant to understand window of tolerance and know when to do this kind of work and not do this kind of work. So I also appreciate, because I know when I read the book versus when I attended the in-person training, how much difference it made to be guided about the nuances and what to observe and what to apply when and when not to go there. Like when you're saying that we could disintegrate them, or we run the harm of pushing them over their window of tolerance, I think that is a valuable tool to learn.
Yeah.
And that's what I am also experiencing in my clinic, that while we can say that cognitive methods are not enough for our clients, we also need to rely on them at times and stay with them if the clients are not yet ready to go where EFT kind of tools can take them.
And you're quite right, Ankita. But I also want to highlight something that you said. it is, as one gets more skilled, you also learn to titrate. With titrate, I mean not get people the full-fledged, but learn to know, can still do some emotional work, but in a way that people can tolerate. But again, you're quite right. One needs to be careful, and I'm the last person who would advocate for one model is for everything. One needs to be careful in how you think about what would best fit your client's needs.
I think that's the skill part, right? That's the finesse part, that you learn how to titrate, you learn how to read your client, you learn when the tool is important and when the holding is important.
Yes,
And
yes, exactly, exactly.
and I remember you saying in the EFCT webinar also that when you're going to come to Delhi, you're going to make sure we're doing a lot of role plays and actually experience how to do this in person as a skill.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ankita.
I'm sorry, I have one question. If you can take it up.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I know it's a little early, but my curiosity is getting the better of me. But since we are doing EFIT, I have a lot of clients who are in the process of selecting a partner for themselves. So, does EFIT give us throw light about that? Is it making us more cautious? The understanding of different attachment styles and the possibility of getting a corrective experience with a particular partner with a particular attachment style. So, do we then move ahead with caution? Are we going to be learning that, or to just take on anybody we think that is reasonably appropriate and there is potential? So do we use our knowledge of attachment style to then decide if we are going to get a corrective experience, the kind we want with a partner with a different attachment style? So, or like typically the anxious avoidant, or anxious or avoidant, whatever. So do we select a partner on that basis?
Oh, yes. But Kriti, do I understand you right, that in normal life, people's attachment style, without them knowing it, will motivate who they select to be with?
Okay, all right. So, okay. So we are going to get attracted to a particular attachment style because there's some potential or some difference we think that that person is going to complement or bring that which we are looking for, or like the typically the anxious attachment style with a more warm personality, more
Yes.
warm
Yeah.
exterior, with would love a calmer exterior like an avoidant attachment. So you mean nothing can be done about that?
Oh, no, they can. And in the sense that if you understand your attachment strategy and what it's trying to do for you, because we know that it is so that in that regard, opposites often attract, but that opposite is often what becomes the problem in the relationship. That where the anxious one who very much appreciates a calm and restful partner begins to complain, I can't find you, I can't connect with you, you don't talk to me, you don't tell me. And as much as one can correct that in with a couple, you can also help an individual to address their attachment pattern and correct it in individual process. Pretty sorry, I know I can't
Thank
respond
you
to
so
you
much.
fully. I'm just
No,
so
thank
aware
you.
of our time, Aditi. I
I do
think we
get
need to
that.
come to a close. But thanks, Preeti, for your interest. I really hope we're going to see you.
Thank you so much.
One last question, if you can answer. What is the age population that we can work EFIT with? Can we use it with kids? Can we use it with really older adults? Like, what is the age that we're looking into when we practice EFIT as a corrective experience for our individual clients?
Obviously, EFIT can work with adolescents, but there is an expertise set for younger children. So there are obviously also trainings where, and very often it is dealt with in emotionally focused family therapy for young children. So there you will also have because in that context, you don't necessarily work with all the family members all the time. You will work with young children, but those of you who work with young children knows that mostly one needs to work with children in their family context, whether you actually have the family in the room or not. But again, just briefly, it's EFIT in the format that we're going to use it, I would say for 16 years and up, because for younger, you will need to pivot and have different skills.
Exactly. Thank you. All right, so here we come to the end of the webinar today.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you,
So
everyone.
Thank you so much.
thank you for coming here, Elmian, and I have shared with people the webinar link, the training link if they want to come in. Thank you all for
Thank
being
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
You all take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Telling everyone in your community that you are learning AI right now, right? Deal.